Hey everybody, today on the podcast we're going to be talking about a very specific piece of advice that my mom gave me years ago, and it really helps me through times that are chaotic, messy, frustrating, and just don't feel normal. Sound familiar? I think you're going to like today's episode. Welcome to the podcast with Kilee Nickels. I made the unlikely transition from stay-at-home mom to CEO of a multi-million-dollar leading fashion brand. At Nickel & Suede, we empower the everyday woman to step into her story more boldly, one life-changing accessory at a time. The goal of this podcast is to inspire you through both my story and the stories of other powerhouse women to take that first step towards living the best version of your life. So grab a notebook, grab a pen, and get ready to get started with Kilee Nickels. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Kilee. You are with Kilee Nickels, and we are getting ready to finish up, I swear, one of the fastest months in the last year. February just flew by. I know it may not have flown by for everybody with the crazy weird weather that we've all been experiencing. So if you really suffered or had some hard times with last week's weather, totally thinking of you. My heart goes out to you. Glad to see spring is kind of on its way, maybe here in Kansas City. But yeah, February really just flew by. And, this month there's obviously Valentine's Day, thinking about love, thinking about self-love and self-care, and I would say even just like loving your life. And so as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about on the podcast today, I remembered a blog post that I wrote a million years ago that was really focused on a piece of advice from my mom. And I think it really applies to self-care, especially in our current day and age and kind of the collective experience we're all going through. So as I think about self-care, I think about, the cliche things of a bath bomb or a manicure, or a pedicure, or I know there's a lot of back and forth about whether a shower counts as self-care. I count it as self-care when I take an hour-long shower because that's my thinking time. But I know that that's kind of like the buzz of what self-care is. But another really cool thought that a friend gave to me a while ago was that self-care looks like creating a life that you don't constantly want to escape from. And I really liked that because it means that you're always taking care of yourself. You're always, keeping yourself and how you can stay healthy and happy and loving life all of the time. Could look like, consistent exercise, could look like consistently making sure you're getting enough sleep. And that consistent thing, I've been working on, that consistent thing can help create a life that you're like, my life feels like I love it. I'm happy to be in it. And yes, I want a vacation sometimes. Yes, a pedicure is great, but that's not the only thing, that takes care of me one time a year for 30 minutes or something. So I do want to put that idea out there. I love that idea of self-care. That being said, it's actually maybe a hard time right now for us to create a life that we don't need to escape from. I think most of us haven't been able to escape or go on any vacation in the longest time. And we've been in a place of a lot of upheaval, a lot of disruption, and a lot of no normalcy between homeschool or weird school schedules or job insecurity and working from home and just all kinds of things that really disrupted our lives. And we're still living in that. And the disruption, I know people talk about going back to it, creating a new normal, but I really do think that when you're living in chaos, I don't think that can ever be a new normal. I think we as humans and people, chaos just can't ever feel normal. What we want is some consistency and some things that we can expect. And so, how does this tie into self-care and what my mom told me? Getting there. This type of life that we're all living right now, this collective experience, it does kind of remind me of what it's like to have a new baby. Derek, my producer, you just had a new baby. How old is she now?
She is, what day is it? 13 days old.
Okay, 13 days old. So his daughter is 13 days old. He's in the midst of a new baby. And we were just talking about, having family in town and just how chaotic it can be when you have a new baby. And I've had 5 kids. I know what it's like to have a new baby. And I can say it was never easy for any of them. It was always chaotic, and it always disrupted all of my normalcy that I had worked so hard to create. And so I feel like that's what the pandemic has done for us, and what, weather and pandemic, and I don't know, there's a list, right? But it's really disrupted our normalcy, just like having a baby. Having a baby means you don't feel the same, you're not sleeping the same, you're not eating the same. Just so many things are disrupted. And so as I was talking, I remember talking to my mom about this feeling and this frustration when I was, I think I was baby number 3. And I had 2 little guys and I had a baby, and I was just feeling so overwhelmed and so exhausted and tired of the chaos. Like, I wanted things to be orderly. I wanted to be able to clean up my house and it would stay clean. I wanted to be able to make dinner and not feel like I was just rushing and then it was going to get destroyed again. And I just felt like I was living in a mess. And I think that applies to a lot of people right now. And I think if you've ever been a parent, you understand that feeling of just living in a mess and really wanting to get back to some normalcy. And so I wrote a blog post about it because my mom's advice was so helpful to me at the time. And I believe she got this advice from her mom. So shout out to moms. But she said, I really feel for you. I totally know what you're going through. My mom had 5 kids too. She's like, it is hard. It's really hard. What I would recommend to help create some normalcy or help feel better is, she's like, try to do one thing every day that can't get undone. And I let that soak in and I thought about it more. And the idea is that there's so many things every day as a new mom and as a mom that get undone. Every day you do something that gets undone. You do the laundry, it gets undone. You do the dishes, they get undone. You make dinner, it gets undone. Everything just feels like a hamster wheel. And the idea to say, I'm going to intentionally take time every day to do something that can't get undone will make me feel like I'm coming up for air. I'm making progress. And it could be so simple. I remember it being something like getting a picture hung on the wall. Like, granted, with little kids, that can get undone, but ideally it doesn't get undone. Like, you have the picture, you put it in a frame, you put it on the wall, and you feel like, wow, like I just did something that was progressive. It felt really good. For me at the time when I was writing this blog post, which I will link to later, it was writing that blog post. I wrote a blog post about being frustrated, about being stuck, about feeling underwater, and that my mom had given me that advice. And writing a blog post, that doesn't get undone either. It lives, it gives me that memory, it acts like a journal, it helps other people. And so that was a time in my life when blogging actually was really important to carve some time out to do, because writing a blog post didn't get undone. It felt like I was creating something. Maybe taking time for a minute to just sketch something in a sketchbook, maybe taking a time to fix a hole in a shirt that you really want to wear again. Filming a little video, creating a little bit of content, reading a book can even be something that doesn't get undone. It becomes part of you. And so that helped me so much in that time of life, and has been something that I've continued to keep in mind as I go through chaotic phases. It's like, okay, if I can just do one thing that won't get undone, then I have a lot more hope and a lot better outlook on life. I have felt the same way with starting a business. Sometimes when you start a business like ours, we sell merchandise. A lot of days were just spent making and shipping. And an order would come in and you had to ship it out. And that was awesome. We were super grateful for it, but it really wasn't fulfilling. Messes get made at work, there's just things that you always have to do. Like every 2 weeks payroll comes around, or every day you have to answer emails or things like that. Your inbox, especially if you know my inbox, I think it has 40,000 unread emails in it, maybe more. It doesn't stay undone. And so answering emails doesn't count. In case that wasn't enough examples for you, I have some more ideas for how you can do things that can't get undone. And let me tell you, getting something done, checking it off, it just creates such a sense of pride. So one thing that I did this year, about a couple of weeks ago, is I was like, I am making the those doctor appointments and those dentist appointments for my kids for the year. And yes, those will get undone, right? You have to do them again next year, but I'm like, I'm going to get way far ahead on this. And so I did. I made a list of everybody in my family. What appointments did they need this year? And I called all the doctors, and it took me an hour, but I feel so good. I feel so put together that like we have doctor's appointments, we have dentist appointments, we are set. And I think that's abnormal because I remember calling the pediatrician being like, I need an appointment for so-and-so in August. And they're like, you can have any slot you want. No one's booking out that far. But it really just, I felt so good after it. I felt like this is the person I want to be. I want to be the person that gets my kids their annual physicals. I want to make sure everybody's shots are on time. I have not always been that person. I want to make sure if Soren needs a appointment that it's on the books or vision things. I know it's silly, but it's also just, for me, it felt really good. Planning out your meals or planning out what everybody eats for dinner. Now that also gets undone, but you can put it in a way of a system that makes it not get undone. So what I did this year is about a month ago, I wrote down everything we were going to eat for the entire month of January. Like what's dinner going to be for the next 30 days. And it saved my butt for the whole month. Like it was so nice to come home and know what we were going to eat for dinner and that the food was in the house. And then I said, I'm just going to repeat this in February. I don't need to redo this work. And I'm probably going to repeat it in March too. And so it felt like I did something that couldn't get undone. I put something in place that was like, now I'm freed up my time and my stress. And that was self-care for me. Literally for a mom, self-care is knowing what's for dinner at night sometimes. Cleaning out kids' schoolwork or paperwork. I know everybody could argue that none of this is self-care, but for me, it really is taking care of myself and creating a life that I'm happy to be in, and it doesn't create stress for me all the time. So I have, all the kids' schoolwork paper piled up for years, but I have these boxes that are organized, file folders for each grade that I just hadn't taken the time to put the schoolwork in. And so one Saturday I took a couple of hours and I got everybody's schoolwork filed for their grades. And I will have to continue to do that, but man, it was a backlogged project and it felt so good to have that stress off my plate instead of just looking at a pile of artwork and a pile of papers that I felt like were at risk. I would say, like I mentioned earlier, drawing or painting something, sewing something. I mean, cutting off a pair of jeans can be productive. Feels like I did something. Cutting them into shorts, or sometimes I'll distress a pair of jeans. I have a really old tutorial on my blog for distressing jeans, but I remember just feeling like I just made something. I made something new. I just made jeans that I like. I like them even better now. And that act of just taking a knife to a pair of jeans or scissors to the bottom of the jeans felt like I was doing something for me. One other idea is to call somebody or to invite them out to lunch. Having a planned moment where you can get together with somebody and catch up is also something that can't get undone. It helps create that community, create relationships, and you can plan it into your schedule so you have something to look forward to. I have felt a lot of success and a lot of progress and a lot of self-care. I would say this relates back to self-care for me because I really get a lot of confidence boost and a lot of enjoyment out of feeling like I checked something off. I did something. I feel like I became a little bit better me today. I feel like I did something that was fulfilling today. And so that is really what I wanted to share today, is to talk about if you are in any kind of chaos, or if you're in kind of an uncertain situation, if you feel like you're kind of in a mess, there may not be a really quick, easy path back to normal. Everything's in its place. It was the way it was before, or it feels comfortably normal, but you can start to climb your way out of that. You can do some self-care by looking for something every day that won't come undone and it makes you feel like I got to check something off, no matter how small it is. I wanted to read part of the blog post that I had written years ago. It was probably 2010, maybe 2011. And it just said, most tasks that are required when taking care of kids in a house, or I would say business, are constantly on repeat and constantly being undone. There is no done with the dishes. There are no done with crumbs, or there is no done with clutter. And part of me can appreciate it and love it. I loved my kids being little. I would despise not having them around to make messes. I love them, and I can even love the messes they make, but I don't love the feeling that that's all I do. With a newborn, I'm being held hostage by my little ones. I think most moms can relate to that feeling. It's hard, and I'm struggling with it today. So later in the post, I said, my mom got some advice a long time ago she passed on to me, and I'm trying to remember it right now. Do one thing every day that can't get undone. Create something, write something, call someone, move one step closer to a goal, and I think there is magic in that. Today, writing this post is my one thing that can't get undone. I'm typing out my thoughts and sending them out to the world, and fortunately or unfortunately, that can't be undone. Today, maybe that for me is recording this podcast and sharing a little encouraging, uplifting message with you, and maybe a new way to look at a sense of not normalcy. I don't know how to say that, but so I would just encourage you to use that or pass that on to somebody that you may know that may be in the same situation. Derek, you can pass it on to your wife if she's feeling overwhelmed, or you when your dad home babysitting with your 2 kids. Yeah, it's all a phase. Sleeping's overrated. It's all a phase. It'll all come back. And I do think that's a great way to look at a lot of things in our life is this is a phase. It's not going to stay this way forever. But how can I take care of myself? How can I feel good and love life while I'm in this phase? And I think the key to loving life and being in any phase that's hard is just still finding the good. And one good thing I've found is making these small steps towards progress and checking things off. So I just want to end today with one more snippet from my blog post that really kind of wraps it up. But I said, if this phase of life sounds all too familiar, try my mom's tip. Think of something each day that can't be undone and make it a priority. It won't take away the repeat chores or tasks, or I would say job insecurity, or kids at home homeschooling, or the piles of paperwork that happen. It won't take away any of those things, but it will give you something to look back on and feel good about at the end of the day. You're building something inside yourself, and you're still enjoying the feeling that we all yearn for, improving and moving forward. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today to With Kilee Nickels. I hope that today you felt empowered to take one more step towards living the best version of you. Tune in next week for another episode, and in the meantime, you can find us elsewhere on the internet. You can find me on Instagram at Kilee Nickels and at Nickel and Suede. You can also find us at nickelandswade.com. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.